A pretty classic Rug Delver take here, honestly. You've got your Delvers, you got your Nomongoose. There are only 3 Tarmogoyfs, and there's 1 True Name Nemesis. And then we'll take a look at some of the other spells. Of course, 4 Lightning Bolts. He's got a Fork Bolt. He's got a Spell Pierce, and he has a card that I've not seen in a long time. And I'm actually going to quiz you on. You ready?
All right.
Reality Ripple. Tell us what it does, Matthias.
Well, you see, back in Cold Snap, we came up with a mechanic called Ripple.
That's true.
And this probably has that ability.
You think that Reality Ripple
is
has
it Reality Ripple 4? That's the best I got. All right, why don't you let us know about Reality Ripple?
There you go.
All right, so this is a card from Mirage. 1 in a blue instant. Target creature, artifact, or land phases out. Now, there's a rules interaction with phasing that is pretty interesting. This has to do, I believe, with the Germ Token and Batterskull.
I think so as well.
So
I don't know it.
Okay, okay, no. Okay.
I don't know.
So how phasing works is that when a card phases out,
this is on Sapphire Charm.
This is on Sapphire Charm.
Okay, I remember it now.
All
okay.
creatures and auras attached to that card phase out with the card, and then they phase back in with the card. So if I have a Germ Token, which is equipped with a Batterskull, I will cast Reality Ripple on your Germ Token, so the Germ will phase out, and then your Batterskull will phase out with it. And then your Germ will phase back in, except that doesn't really work because tokens don't phase back in. So they'll say, hey, I'll try to phase back in. It won't phase back in, and the Batterskull won't come with it either.
What's it going to take to get a phasing reprint in like
Never.
the next set, like Born of the Gods? Can we get phasing back?
It'll probably come back in the set when you bring back banding as well.
Okay. I think, I'm not sure which one is more complicated, but I think we should get a phasing rebuy. Time Spiral 2.
All right, yeah.
That's what I want.
Phasing, banding, all those great abilities, flanking.
Yeah, I'm not asking too much because it's easy to bring back cycling because it's such an easy mechanic and everyone likes it. But you have to be a real tough guy to bring back the mechanics that no one likes and make them play with it again.
Rampage.
Yeah, no one knows how that works.
You put Rampage and banding in the same set, you can get this great dynamic.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Just a set of just all the bad mechanics and call it Time Spiral 2. As we see a Deathrite Shaman going to start things here for you.
All right, Deathrite Shaman. So the Llanowar Elf now of Elves in play. It still is turn 1 Forest into Mana Elf. It's still the strongest play out of Elves.
Tropical Island to start things here for Simon. I always do wonder who feels favored in this matchup. You would think that Rug Delver would be pretty good here because they've got some pinpoint removal, they've got some counter spells, and a pretty decent clock. As Jarvis is going to start off here with an Elvish Visionary, but I can never tell.
Well, so Elves has a lot going for it in that there's not really one spell you want to counter. Simon's like, well, do you really want to counter Elvish Visionary? But the problem is if you don't counter Elvish Visionary, they're probably going to draw 1, 2, 3 cards with it. So you eventually have to counter it. The other thing is that Daze quickly can become outclassed by cards like Gaia's Cradle. So Rug's counter magic can be a little hit or miss. I think the things that are really good is that Rug plays Lightning Bolt and the 1-mana removal. That can be really effective in the matchup.
They've also got 2 copies of Rough and Tumble on the sideboard, which is basically the industry standard at this point. There are some other things here in Christie's sideboard, which we will get to when we have a moment. Daze is going to target the Elvish Visionary. Jarvis says, all right, I'll remove my Wooded Foothills. I want to draw a card, and that'll be it for my turn. So let's see what Christie has here. If he's trying to trick Jarvis into getting a board of elves out there so he can cast a huge Rough and Tumble, because there's a Wasteland. He really doesn't care about his resources at all.
Yeah, well, you can waste an Elves player, but Elves doesn't need very many lands to work. So Christie does need to at some point make a board presence here. Although, Elves will combo you given enough time.
Yeah, and he's not really underneath a ton of pressure. Elvish Visionary is where Jarvis is going to start. He'll follow up with a Wirewood Symbiote.
So that has got to be scary. Symbiote and Elvish Visionary together are no slouch. They will draw quite a few cards.
We saw Matt Nass put on display over the Invitational with this 2-card combo, being able to make sure that he could always find the rest of the things he needed in his deck to be able to finish off his opponents. Windswept Teeth going to search out a Bayou right now. Don't want to get stifled, which Christie does have 4 in his main deck. And let's see if Jarvis is going to play anything interesting here this turn. He could very simply just pick up the Visionary, use Deathrite Shaman to remove that Windswept Teeth or the Wasteland in the graveyard, and then just replay it if he'd like to.
All right, so we see Elvish Visionary, or Deathrite Shaman's going to remove the Wasteland. And you said he's going to untap the Deathrite Shaman, bouncing the Elvish Visionary, so it only costs 1 mana to draw another card. And that was the thing we said, I'm not sure about you know, the Elvish Visionary, you don't want to counter it, but if you don't counter it, it can be pretty bad.
All right, so Visionary is in, and now Jarvis has another man. Draws a Progenitus. Not you, Progenitus. I wanted a natural order for you. You're not supposed to be in my hand.
Yeah, I mean, you could just play the green Brainstorm and put it back. He does a Birchlar Ranger, so it's theoretically castable.
We're getting
at this
closer.
point.
What's going to happen first? That Chainer's Edict get flashback in Jund, or a hard cast Progenitus from Elves?
It's pretty close. I think if it was a challenge, an Elf player could hardcast a Progenitus.
Easy.
You know, yeah, you just go off with some Nettle Sentinels, and you just start making some white, some blue, some.
I mean, it'd be pretty.
It would be
I
one
give
of
my
those-
money. I give my money to the Progenitus hardcast. I
It'd be
do.
one of those achievement unlocked things. I don't know. We were 1 mana away from flashing back Chainer's Edict.
Yeah, but it never
One
happened.
away. Didn't happen.
We got Deathrite Shaman can tap for any mana. Birchlar Rangers can help tap for any mana. He could go crazy and hardcast a Progenitus for some style points. There's another Wasteland here.
Well, Simon Christie keeps taking a land away from Jarvis every turn, but that's just really not, you know, Elves makes a lot of mana.
Yeah, I mean, this is playing exactly into what Jarvis wants to have happen, which is he's got plenty of mana, and while you can see that Simon has no board, so maybe Jarvis going for a flawless victory?
Yeah, well, eventually Jarvis is going to cast this natural order and then go get Craterhoof Behemoth and just hit Simon with a bunch of creatures.
And because Simon's already used 2 copies of Wasteland, when Jarvis eventually does draw a copy of Gaia's Cradle, and it's never going to die, and it gets to just go, it just gets to run rampant. Simon does have a couple copies of Forceful in his hand. He has a Daze to remove as well, but going after Elves' mana, after watching this match happen a lot, it's not the best way to go about it. So let's see what Yu's going to search for. He's going to go get a Bayou. And we'll see what he's going to follow up with. We know he has Visionary in his hand because he already returned it last turn with the Symbiote.
All right. Yeah, so we'll see. He has in hand, yeah, that Birchlar Ranger's natural order. I mean, this doesn't really feel much pressure to try for natural order. The only way that Simon can interact right now is with a Force of Will. So I'm not sure I'd want to go for an all-in spell. I would just continue drawing cards.
Yeah, I just keep building my board. I have no reason to make a move, like you said, and the only card I really would want to draw in this situation if I'm Jarvis is I just want to draw Gaia's Cradle.
All right, so now he drew Nettle Sentinel that turn. If you haven't had Nettle Sentinel with Birchlar Rangers to play before, it's quite powerful. It means every elf comes into play with haste and can tap for a mana of any color, basically. So
And now there is Nettle Sentinel.
it's going to get dazed, it looks like.
Oh, it can't get dazed. It doesn't any land.
You're absolutely right. So, yeah, it just resolves. So, one mana. And yeah, this is exciting here. So,
So Sentinel's going to untap. Grand Ranger's going to come into play.
and there's a green sun in Jarvis's hand, and it should be maybe not this turn, but soon it'll be no problem for him to build up to enough mana with that green sun to find a Craterhoof.
Green. I'll see what color mana Jarvis is gonna add here.
Yeah,
See what he wants to do on this turn. He's got a lot of options.
He may just find another Wirewood Symbiote and continue to bounce Visionary over and over.
All right, so Wirewood's gonna get turned upside down. Untap Birchlar, return a Visionary.
So he has 1 mana now. He taps 2 for a second green mana. That'll be able to cast the Visionary, which will untap Nettle Sentinel and draw another card.
Look how much fun we're having.
Elves is great.
Are you having fun? Jarvis is
I'm
having a blast.
fun. I mean, even you have to think that this is pretty fun. What's not fun about just casting creatures and creatures and creatures?
All right, so now Wirewood Symbiote is going to get into the red zone, too. I love it. Hey,
Yeah.
Jarvis did finally draw a Cradle, so next turn, that's when the fireworks begin.
Next turn the game is over.
Yes, for the most part, yeah.
Yeah. He can try for the Natural Order and for the Zenith, probably on the same turn.
See what Christie has this turn. Does he have a permanent?
We can't ruin the flawless victory here.
He needs to work his way towards like a Rough Tumble or a Lightning Bolt or something.
He has a pair of Force of Wills, but you do need, you're right, a proactive answer against Elves. Something to sweep their board. You 1-for-1ing with them is pretty hard.
There's a Fork Bolt. Let's see what the targets are.
It's a great card against Elves.
Yeah.
It has to be Symbiote as the first target,
Yep.
and he correctly identifies that. The second target, whatever the second target is, it's not going to work.
Unless it goes upstairs.
Yeah, you may want to target something like Birchlore Rangers so that Jarvis has to pick between bouncing Birchlore and bouncing Elvish Visionary to draw another card. That I think that's probably the correct thing. We'll see what he picks. Yeah, but Wirewood Symbiote is the must-kill here.
And then target Quarian Ranger.
All right, so he's going for those two. We'll see whether or not Jarvis wants to save the second elf or whether he wants to draw another card with Visionary.
That's actually kind of an interesting decision. I don't know if he needs any more cards. He's going to add a green mana. He's going to untap Deathrite Shaman. So pick up the Visionary, and now there goes those two. See if he's going to do anything with that green mana. Maybe remove... remove a creature to gain 2 life.
Creature to gain 2. So
Got
he
it.
gets that free mana there. All right, so Jarvis doesn't get to untap... Yeah, he catches it. Doesn't untap the Metal Sentinel.
Easy. There's an Abrupt Decay.
Yes,
Cradle at 3 right now.
Yeah, we do still have a Force of Will, a blue card, and a Daze in Simon Christie's hand. So he's got some disruption. We're going to start with a casting of Elvish Visionary. And that's going to go ahead and untap Nettle Sentinel. So now 2 more mana available for Jarvis. 6 once he plays the Gaia's Cradle.
Boom. Natural order time, of course. Sacrifice the Visionary. This is going to get Force of Will.
Yeah, this has to get Force of Willed. So natural order. If this isn't Force of Willed, it's going to go find a Crater of Behemoth and swing for lethal. Yep. You see here.
Jarvis just has to work his way through Force of Will, obviously. Which I'm fine with that natural order getting countered. He still has nice board presence. He can keep attacking. If a Rough Tumble shows up here for Christie, it gets a little bit ugly.
Well, I think Elvish Visionary was the wrong creature to sacrifice there. If he'd sacrificed something else, Jarvis could now Green Sun Zenith for a Wirewood Symbiote and start drawing cards again. But he actually has his card advantage engine gone for the time being.
Yeah, maybe Virtual Ranger is a better sacrifice there with the Visionary.
Yeah, I mean, that does take away some of your mana-making potential to if you sacrifice the Birchlore, but what's probably more important than the mana potential is the card potential because the Gaia's Cradle's already creating so much mana.
He still can Zenith for 1 if he activates Deathrite Shaman for a mana, and then Birchlore Ranger and Nettle Sentinel tap for, colorless or whatever color he wants to tap for, and then you can Zenith for 1 to go get a Wirewood. But I'm kind of with you in which, then he would have a...
Then he's missing the Visionary.
Yeah, he's missing the Visionary, sure.
Right, so we'll see how Jarvis plans to win right now. He still can make enough mana to try to Zenith for a Crater Hoof or Zenith for something else. But if Simon has another Force of Will plus blue card, which he does, he may just be able to take all the cards that matter.
So an attack for 4 here from you should put Christie down to 11, I believe. And we'll see exactly what Christie wants to do to start his turn. Maybe it's a little Brainstorm action, as you see a Tropical Island in his hand to go along with the Volcanic Island that's in play.
Yeah, Christie's doing a great job of playing defense against the combo here. He does not have a very good offense to go with it, however.
It's so much easier. Like the games are obviously much easier for Delver when they just have an Insectile Aberration into play, and that's their plan, right? Which is just get that into play.
And then play like this.
Yeah, and then play like this the entire time.
Yeah, so, I mean, if that was happening, Jarvis would be taking 3 every turn.
Yeah. So Brainstorm is going to get cast here. We'll see if Christie has a fetch land to make it a perfect Brainstorm or not. As you mentioned, there's a Force of Will over there already in his hand. So let's see here, Mr. Christie, how you want to organize things and how you want to move forward. Because right now he just needs to find a creature. Luckily for him, he does have a Nimble Mongoose in his hand, but Nimble Mongoose is not great on this board.
Yeah, he needs something that can be an actual damage source. Nimble Mongoose isn't really a good source of damage against elves because right now it could attack, but if Jarvis gets a Wirewood Symbiote in play, then it doesn't even deal any damage on the attack as Jarvis will continue to run the block and bounce a creature interaction with the Wirewood Symbiote.
All right, so there is a Trop via the Scalding Tarn, so it's a, quote, perfect Brainstorm, unquote. And I think we might see a Goose.
Yep, we see a creature that is Nimble Mongoose for Simon Christie. He still does have, I believe, a Force of Will and blue card in his hand.
Nettle Sentinel 1 on tap, but the rest of the permanents will. Quarian Ranger will be the draw step here for you. And we'll see how he wants to navigate this turn. Does he want to start with a Green Sun Zenith?
Well, ideally, he'd like that Green Sun Zenith to be for enough to get a hoof. It doesn't look like he's doing that. He's tapping it for 3, so he's zenithing for 2. He's going to go get Scavenging Ooze.
Huh. Okay.
So on a totally different plan, this plan now involves hitting Simon Christie with a Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, I actually kind of like this plan right now too. Of just I can make 1, 2, 3. I can make 4 green mana potentially. I can remove your graveyard to make your Nimble Mongoose irrelevant, and I can also remove my own creatures to make my Scavenging Ooze big enough that you can never kill it, and then you can never stop it from killing you.
Well, I mean, if you think about other decks that play Scavenging Ooze, if you end up getting, 5/5 or 6/6 Scavenging Ooze against Delver, that's usually good to say if you were playing a Maverick deck or playing a Jund deck. There's no reason it's not good out of Elves too. It's just an angle you don't normally expect the deck to be taking.
See if he's going to deploy anything else to the board. There's a Quirion Ranger that's going to tap the Nettle Sentinel. And now our good friend Scavenging Ooze gets to run a little bit rampant here. And even though you did draw a Progenitist and he hasn't got to resolve a natural order, he'll probably just be able to win through the boring old route of just attacking with Elves.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. The Elves wins off frequently through this game plan.
This is actually one of my favorite things about this combo deck is that it can just win by just beating you down, but you always have to be very scared if you're the opponent. Just at any moment, they could just all of a sudden combo you out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's just this aggro deck with amazing synergy, really. When we see like Symbiote, Elvish Visionary, the deck used to be more of a combo deck, but since the printing of Craterhoof, actually, it's become less and less of a combo deck. You're starting to see them cut numbers of Heritage Druids from the deck. Oftentimes you see Elves players just fire off a Glimpse of Nature to draw 2 or 3 cards as opposed to waiting to win the whole game with it.
Yeah, they've moved away from cards like Regal Force because they don't need to do that anymore. You don't see cards like Weird Harvest like you saw at Pro Tour Berlin. So definitely a different deck now. You can thank Matt Nass and Luis Scott Vargas for that. Their updates to the deck have been beneficial for a lot of people, as Rough Tumble was the card drawn for Christie this turn.
Christie's doing a great job of being the control deck here. He does have his threat down. And I think that's pretty good that Jarvis then found the Scavenging Ooze.
So block the Nimble Mongoose. Now here's the Rough Tumble.
And that's huge. He baited the play there.
Yeah, I mean, he made it, he blocked with the Nettle Sentinel, which would die to the Rough Tumble anyway.
Now, okay.
And so now you're just going to see a Deathrite Shaman activation. It's going to remove a land, add a green mana, see if there's a creature to eat here for the Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, he can use the Quirion Ranger to untap to untap the Deathrite Shaman, bouncing a forest. He's going to eat something else in a graveyard to make sure that Scavenging Ooze is bigger before he loses most of his mana. Yeah, he's not going to eat a land from the graveyard. He's actually going to use the Burstlord Ranger's ability to create a mana that way to preserve graveyard.
And he's got mana floating too, so before he passes to the next phase, he can remove a couple things, grow the Ooze. He says, I'm going to eat your Nimble Mongoose, and I'll eat something of mine. Yeah. So I'll make it into a 6/6, gain a little bit of life. Now you have to beat this 6/6. That can grow into a 7/7 or 8/8 next turn.
Now he's sure to go for the creature in Simon's graveyard first because Simon does play Threshold cards.
Yep, and he was going to remove this, remove that, attack for 8, and that's going to do it.
That's
so,
it. All right.
Jarvis Hugh is going to even this match up 1-1 against Simon Christie. Elves and Rug Delver will play a third and final one where we do have the potential again for one of these two at X and 2 to maybe slide into the 8th spot.
Absolutely. These are this is the highest tiebreak of the X and 2s right now. Typically, X and 2 is a record that is not live for top 8, but sometimes when you get top 8s where everybody is playing, or especially when people at the top records are playing instead of drawing, you can see an X2 sneak in.
Yeah, it does happen on occasion. Obviously, it's not something that happens all the time, but there have been some tournaments where X2s have slid in, and X2s, because they've slid in, have actually won the tournament. I think of the Legacy Open in Baltimore earlier this year, where Jonathan Suarez slid in at X and 2, didn't even know he was going to make it. He was actually about to pick up and leave. They announced him in 8th place, and it's just like, what? Are you kidding? And then, played with House Money, actually wins the tournament with Imperial Painter, and played that deck this weekend in the Invitational and got 9th place.
Right.
So he didn't make it on Breakers in the Invitational. Poor guy.
He only had 9th at the Invitational. So such a poor guy.
Yeah, it's a really bad weekend overall, I'd say. He actually missed making top 8 on Breakers by a healthy 4%, but
yeah.
He was able to win that Invitational with Imperial Painter. Part of the reason that deck actually came back while it did during the summer, him and Ruben Bressler experiencing some success with that deck on the Open Series circuit.
Yeah, see both players playing pretty quickly here. The clock timer up there is correct. There are 8 minutes left in the round.
Yeah.
The reason why I do believe this is live for top 8, by the way, is that typically in the last round of a Star City Games Open, you'll see a lot of players at 6-2 drawing in the last round to secure a top 16 spot. And Jarvis, you being a veteran of the circuit, is very aware of this. So the fact that they're even playing this game really suggests that Jarvis believes he has a chance to top 8 the event.
Yeah. We'll see what happens between the two players. Don't forget, this is the last round of the Swiss here. In the Legacy Open round, 9 of 9. Cedric Phillips, Matthias on Osabedovich. He's currently on break, probably eating pizza or something. Who knows? At SCG Live, hashtag SCGINVI for your tweets for the rest of this weekend. We've already crowned 2 champions. Tim Rivera, Standard Open champion with Mono Black Devotion.
That was a good deck this week also.
Yeah, not a bad choice. Not a bad choice. Mad Max Brown. The maximum amount of Browns were delivered this weekend.
Yeah, 9-0 through the top of the Invitational with Mono Black Devotion.
Yes, so.
Which means that Pox is going to win the Legacy Open.
That would make me so incredibly happy. You have no idea if a deck with Sinkhole and Curse Scroll won the Open.
And only swamps in every format.
Yes, all swamps all the time. I know everyone makes fun of people about everyone wants Mono Black to be the hot new deck every time a new set
every
is
single
released.
time a new set comes out.
And finally, it's come to fruition. But you know what's funny is like people don't even like the Mono Black deck. It's frustrating to play against because it has Pack Rat and Thoughtseize.
Well,
you guys asked for
I think
this.
People who like Mono Black forget what it's like when Mono Black's actually a good deck.
Yeah.
The deck's miserable.
It's miserable to play against. You wanted this, people. You got what you wanted from R&D. Mono Black is finally good, so enjoy your Pack Rats for the next year. Enjoy being Thoughtseize and not getting to play Magic. You wanted it, you got it.
A Doomblade, all your creatures, Thoughtseize, all your spells.
Yeah. Great Merchant U for 1,100.
All right, we see a turn 1 Ponder from Simon Christie off of Tropical Island.
Wooded Foothills to draw here for you. He's going to start by sacrificing a Verdant Catacombs, go down to 19, and we'll see which of the 1-mana plays he's going to play, and it's going to be a Green Sun Zenith, if it resolves.
Yep, Zenith 4, Dryad Arbor. It looks like it's resolving. Simon actually has a Daze here. I would have to assume he would Daze this spell.
Kind of a Fork Bolt and Grip to maybe take care of it, or a Bolt to kill the land if he wants to use
All
his
right,
red burn. If he wants to use his red burn spells like that, he's going to daze it.
Now it's going to Daze.
Nope, so you don't get to shuffle that back in.
Nope. So just a Force for Jarvis.
Draws a Spell Pierce to Simon.
Yep, so once again, Simon doing a great job playing the control role. He does not as good at the aggro role yet. He wants some damage source in play.
He needs a clock. He needs a Mongoose. He needs
a
Delver.
There really was a clinic last game and just how Delver does actually need a clock at some point.
Yeah, it can't just be reactive the entire game. The resources aren't there. He's going to play a Volcanic Island and pass the turn
So
back.
he didn't play the Mongoose. Instead, he played the Volcanic Island. I hope. I don't know.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with that play.
I mean, I feel like from last game, you need a clock. You need to start attacking.
Yes.
I know that the Mongoose is. He's probably thinking, and the reason he's waiting is that the Mongoose is only a 1/1 right now. It's not really a clock until it thresholds.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to get that thing out there. You have to start pressuring your opponent, or things are going to play out just like it did in the last game. As here comes, like Public Enemy #1. This might be the best card in the Elves deck, which is the most ridiculous thing to say. But Elvish Visionary causes so much trouble for the opponent. It's just this boring-looking 1/1 that doesn't have an effect on the game, but it has a huge effect. This here's a Nimble Mongoose from Christie, and going to pass the turn back.
Yeah, he has another Nimble Mongoose in hand. So somewhat of a clock, but we see the little insect there in Jarvis's hand, which happens to be pretty good with this Wirewood Symbiote.
Here,
with this Elvish Visionary.
Here's the combo, the best combo in Legacy. Wirewood Symbiote, Elvish Visionary. I'm not sure if it's better than Show and Tell Push Gigantic Monster, but it sure seems like it sometimes.
Well, it draws more cards. Well, maybe not more cards than Gristlebrand. At least
Close.
not in one turn.
It's close.
Green Gristlebrand right here. Wirewood Symbiote, Elvish Visionary.
It drinks fatigue.
Yeah, this card is a Wirewood Symbiote we see on the left here. A very powerful card that you probably have to play with 2 or 3 times before you really get what it does. I know when I first played with it in Elf Combo, I had to read the text about over and over. So the cost is you bounce your own guy, and the effect is you untap a different guy.
Yes. But paying the cost with returning your own elf can't be responded to.
Yeah, so he's actually used to protect your own creatures.
So bye-bye Insect, but Lightning Bolt's going to take care of that. Jarvis is going to sacrifice a Wooded Foothills while Simon is tapped out, so he doesn't get stifled. Simon will draw a card. It's a Lightning Bolt. Yeah, he still has that Force of Will, too.
Yes, Force of Will, Spell Pierce, another Nimble Mongoose.
Bzz.
He's going to go ahead and bolt the Nettle Sentinel. Nettle Sentinel is not too scary, I don't think, in this matchup, but what it does do is it helps Simon Christie fill out his graveyard. That's actually a nice. I think that's a heavily miscut Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, it's actually pretty nice. I think the goal here for Christie is, I think his game plan that he's orchestrating is he just wants to kill everything that U does. And he just wants to fill up his graveyard at the same time so he can make those Nimble Monkeys actually relevant threats, as Elvish Visionary is going to join the party again and draw a Gaia's Cradle.
And hey, look what's in Jarvis's hand. It's a creature. It's another insect.
Combo.
Those pesky insects keep coming back and keep being ridiculous.
There's a Cradle. There's the Wirewood.
So wait,
tap like
did
that.
it. Why did he tap that way? Yeah. Both of us said, oh, wait, why? If he plays it with the Bayou, then he gets 2 mana and they can recast the Visionary.
Yeah, that's a little bit surprising. Okay, Forcible's going to take care of that.
Well, I think he's playing around days. That's what he's just doing then. He wants him playing around.
Well, but he can pay with the Cradle for days, yeah. So I don't. It doesn't.
I don't understand.
I don't understand that one either. Either way, I mean, Forcible's going to take care of the Wirewood anyway. So, and now I think there's 5 cards in Christie's graveyard. So no blocks from you.
Both of them swing. It's either 5 or 6.
But Christie only has 2 cards in his hand, and what that means is you has done a nice job of exhausting his resources. So now he can start resolving some better spells. Here's a 3 mana Zenith. Or excuse me, a 2 mana Zenith, 3 mana to total casting cost. Yeah. So you can play around spell pierce
I think
now.
he's going for that Scavenging ooze again, too. You see a Zenith on 2.
Yeah.
I mean, what better way to keep Nimble Mongoose at 1/1 than just getting a Scavenging ooze and making it big?
I wonder if Christie's going to force this. He is. So now he's out of cards.
Question is, how many are in the graveyard? It's either 6 or 7. So we'll see here. So Christie out of reaction spells. He just has the 2 Nimble Mongoose. Jarvis has free reign here to attempt to combo. It looks like he just has some control cards in his hand right now. He has an Abrupt Decay. And I don't know, I think another land.
Yeah, he's not really doing very much. He's got an Abrupt Decay over there, and not a ton else of consequence. But Christie's out of cards. But he's very, very close, if not at threshold, very close. So he is there. So the geese are lease. Is that how you say it?
The geese
are leased.
The geese are leased.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll be 6. That's 3-turn clock. Jarvis is going to need some game to deal with that. We see there's this. He's currently still resolving a Ponder. Simon Christie is going to draw off that. Checks again. It is 7 cards.
Bash you. Put you to 8. What's the follow-up? Is another, geez, Fork Bolt. Okay, down to 7.
Down to 7.
So, okay, I was going to say there was nothing in natural order, but he can go get a...
Now, do you Forked Bolt there, or do you swing next turn and see if Jarvis blocks? And now Jarvis puts himself to 6 for you. So
yeah, I feel like we might go see a Progenitus here. Yeah, Dryad Arbor's what he's going to search for, and he has enough mana to go search for Progenitus. Christie's empty-handed, so if he does have a copy of natural order in his hand, he can't go for Progenitus. Maybe he just goes and gets Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, I think it's Scavenging Ooze is preferable to Progenitus because Progenitus can't attack on this board. Christie could suicide 1 Nimble Mongoose and just put Jarvis down to 3, and it's probably not a good line, but 6 is low. I almost would rather have life gain than I'd have on this protection from everything.
Natural order after that tough Dryad Arbor gets into the red zone, so you is going to search out.
Which one is it?
A card that is almost as good as True Nemesis.
Yeah, it does not have as much protection as. Yeah, its protection effect is worse than True Name Nemesis.
Yeah.
Protection from everything. You'd rather just have protection from the bad things.
Bets that Christie has a Lightning Bolt on top of his deck.
Ooh, that'd be a good draw, right?
Yeah, it would be good.
I don't think so.
He's got a Brainstorm.
Brainstorm, okay. Let's see, Lightning
The
Bolt.
fact that Jarvis can die right now is insane.
He should have gotten Imperial Archangel with the Progenitus.
Then
he couldn't die.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think any elf players ever played that.
No, that card's not good.
It's green. You can natural order for it. It has Shroud. It redirects damage.
Got a lot of text for being a bad card.
Simon would be scooping to it right now. How would he deal with Imperial?
Scooping is
How would he be dealing with Imperial
Scooping
Archangel?
is strong.
It'd be unbeatable on this board. Well,
you find Tarmogoyf, good to go.
Yeah, you play Tarmogoyf.
Yeah. Find Sure Name, good to go.
Yeah, it'd be hard.
It would be difficult. You're not wrong. It would be difficult. Right now it's going to be difficult for Jarvis because he can't attack.
Right. Yeah, if he attacks, he dies. Well, it's okay. If he draws a few cards, Elves is always in the market for restocking and going again.
Like, if he was to, if on his next turn he just went, if he just drew an Elvish Visionary into a creature, I think it would be safe to attack.
Yeah.
What's this going to be? Okay, that's a Wasteland, take care of the Cradle.
I think Jarvis has another Cradle.
Yeah.
So, sure. That's probably
He's
fine.
got Abrupt Decay in his hand, and he drew a Finhorn Elf. I wonder if he risks it. Oh, I guess he's an extra turn, so yeah. He has to risk it. It's turn 2. An extra turn. Yeah, he's only got 1 more attack, so he just plays the Finhorn Elf and says go. And if Christie has removal spell, he'd be dead anyway. What if he draws the Reality Ripple? Does Jarvis die?
Phases it out. No, he doesn't.
Oh,
Gets
God! All right, Jarvis does win the match, 2-1. So Elves moves on to 7-2, and as you mentioned, Jarvis started this tournament 6-0. Then he went lose to miss top 8, and then he wins this match. So